Hello, I'm Henry Keane. This is News Sport at UATV. Welcome to the show. Today in the episode, Ukrainian army instructors were shocked by the way the United States military shoots down the Shahed 8 Patriot missiles just to down one Shahed drone. Blackmail, now recon, later. Orbán set himself up for a reckoning with EU, and it surely comes after the Hungarian election, while Ukraine gets its 90 billion euro loan anyhow. Vladimir Putin disappeared from 9th of May until now. Russian dictator just goes completely dark and off the grid. What could be the reason behind it? Look in our story for you. Over the past year, Ukraine has carried out at least 365 confirmed middle strike drone attacks at depth of up to 250 kilometers. The primary objective is the systemic destruction of Russian air defense systems, clearing the path for subsequent deep strikes into the rear. The FP2 and Rubaka drones are the most frequently deployed assets, with a recent and sharp surge in the use of the FP2 drones. The involvement of various units across the defense forces has allowed for a multifold increase in the intensity of these operations. The result? Russian forces are being forced to overstretch their air defenses, thus leave their rear vulnerable, losing the ability to safely concentrate their forces. The 50 to 250 kilometer zone has become a high-risk area for any type of Russian military or logistical infrastructure. And the best evidence of that, last night, the Alchevsk Iron and Steel Works, which does not work anymore, the plant used to supply the Russian defense industry. The footage captures the distinct hum of a drone engine, and then at one moment it just suddenly begins to steep drive right before striking the target. The camera records the explosion and a rising pillar of fire. After that, the plant's infrastructure and 2 production workshops were severely damaged as a result of a strike. Ukrainian instructors sent to the Middle East were shocked by the way the American military shoots down Shahed drones. The Times quotes a senior Ukrainian Air Force officer in an utter shock to hear reports of Gulf states firing as many as 8 Patriot interceptor missiles, each worth more than $3 million at a single target, one Shahed drone. And US allies are adding to the absurdity of that, using the expensive systems also to hit cheap drones, while the data from Ukrainian Patriot crew missions has been shared with all allies who also use the system. The US and its allies in the Gulf just do not appear to have paid enough attention to the complex calculations during actual combat Ukraine has made to improve intercept rates and make the economics of war actually work in the favor of allies and not their enemy.
I don't understand what they had been doing, what they have been looking at for the 4 years we've been fighting. Often they, the US and its allies, were firing thoughtlessly. For example, they used SM-6 missiles. From a ship, a very good anti-missile missile. This missile costs about $6 million, and they used it to shoot down a Shahed costing $70,000. The Times quoting senior Ukrainian Air Force officer.
As Donald Trump has rejected Ukraine's offer to help and called Zelensky, I quote, the last person he'd ask for help from. Still, the United States just recently sent Ukraine new requests regarding military experts in another 2 areas of the Gulf region. Well, I guess fancy talking about and actually walking through the war adjusts the plans accordingly.
Our teams are already working with 5 countries on countering Shahed drones. We have provided expert assessments and are helping build a defense system. Additional requests have been received from other states. There are also requests from the U.S. side regarding expert support for their military personnel in 2 areas of the region. We are also reviewing requests from European partners whose forces are based in the region. Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Next time you hear somebody saying Hungary blackmails the EU, it is not exactly the case. It's just one man, Viktor Orbán, who does. And he has been doing it so for a long time. As Politico writes about it, for much of the past decade, Hungary's Viktor Orbán has succeeded in bending the EU's agenda to his will by forcing leaders to overcome his constant vetoes in one high-level gathering after another. And he's ready to do so again, possibly for the last time, as he faces a tough battle for re-election against rival Peter Madja next month already. By threatening to block at a gathering of EU leaders in Brussels a 90 billion euros loan for Ukraine that Orbán himself have approved in December, Viktor Orbán has just crossed a red line when it comes to opposing Brussels, while the bloc has so far shied away from a major confrontation with Viktor Orbán. It hasn't yet stripped Budapest of voting rights, for example, but this cautious calculus may well change after the election.
I had the impression that my colleagues, who have been members of this European Council for much longer than I have, are deeply angered by what happened today. It is an act of gross disloyalty within the European Union, the likes of which, according to those who have been here longer than I have, has not occurred in this form before. And I am firmly convinced that this will leave a deep mark.
So the crux of it is the European Union will still provide Ukraine with the 90 billion loan package for 2026 and 28, as it considers it a global European security priority and urgent need. It is happening with Orbán in place, or most likely without.
Let me turn to the 90 billion euro support loan for Ukraine. A decision was taken by the European Council in December, and there was one condition, the condition that 3 countries would not participate in the loan. That condition has been fulfilled. So let us be clear about where we stand. The loan remains blocked because one leader is not honoring his word. But let me reiterate what I already said in Kyiv. We will deliver one way or the other.
Vladimir Putin goes off the grid. He has disappeared completely from public events in the Kremlin and without any comments on that from his entourage. His last public appearance took place on March 9th during a meeting regarding the situation in the global oil and gas markets, and nothing since then. This is one of the longest gaps in the Russian dictator's schedule since the beginning of the year. What adds drama to it, Putin's disappearance occurs right after the elimination of Ali Khamenei. Experts indicate that CIA and Mossad allegedly tracked the Iranian leader using just street surveillance cameras, a technology that is even more prevalent in Moscow than in Tehran. So Putin might be just afraid for his own life, and not without a reason. More in our story for you.
Putin prefers not to appear in the Kremlin, reports Agentstvo. His last public event was on March 9th. After that, only video conferences and meetings that could have been recorded in advance. On Wednesday, the Russian dictator held an online meeting with the government, according to official information, from the residence in Novo Ogaryovo, and judging by the video, from an office of which exact copies exist in Sochi and Valdai. Analysts link such isolation to Putin's fears following the liquidation of Iran's military-political leadership. In the Kremlin, they believe rumors that Ali Khamenei was allegedly tracked via street surveillance cameras, and there are plenty of those in the center of Moscow. By the way, they also connect this to the internet shutdown in the Russian capital.
In the Kremlin sits Vladimir Putin, who on the one hand is concerned with the development of artificial intelligence, viewing it practically as a weapon, and on the other hand still receives all data in folders. For him and his peers, the internet is still a malicious channel of information influence invented by the CIA, which can easily be blocked, roughly the same way as in their youth they jammed German waves in the USSR. Ivan Preobrazhensky, expert on Central and Eastern Europe, in a column for Deutsche Welle.
There are no signs that the aggressor country is striving to end the war against Ukraine. Moscow does not stop terrorist shelling of Ukrainian cities and disrupts any diplomatic attempts at settlement. Prolonging the war is a deliberate strategy of the Kremlin, designed to exhaust Ukraine and fatigue the West, experts conclude.
For them, the concept of war against Ukraine is fundamental. It is what prevents the Russian Federation itself from falling apart. They cannot exit it. For them, the war is their subjectivity. They exist inside this war. They realize all their complexes, fears, and so on. They hate us, and they came here simply to kill. There are no reasons for war here. We had neither territorial disputes nor any ideological disputes with them. It was an artificially created propagandistic dummy.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine emphasizes that real progress in diplomacy is possible only at the level of leaders. However, Moscow avoids such talks, especially since the Kremlin is rushing to extract maximum benefits from the escalation in the Middle East. The energy crisis caused by Iran's decision to block the Strait of Hormuz has led to a sharp spike in oil prices. The United States lifted sanctions on the export of Russian oil and oil products loaded onto tankers until April 11th. The U.S. Treasury Department called this measure temporary, and President Trump, in an interview with NBC News, promised that sanctions on Russian oil will be restored, quote, as soon as the crisis ends. Meanwhile, Moscow is trying to take advantage of the suddenly opened window of opportunity. Whether this will help cover the federal budget deficit is an open question.
For January to February of this year, a deficit of $3.2 trillion has already been reached. That is, in reality, these $10 billion is roughly less than $1 trillion. Consider it 700 billion rubles and so on. These figures definitely cannot fully cover the deficit that actually exists today and which Russians are planning to cover by increasing taxes and putting quite serious pressure on civilian business.
Russia is trying to create an illusion of collapse of Ukrainian defense on the front to force the West to pressure Kyiv into concessions, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War believe. The plans of Russian military command and the actions of the aggressor country's army on the front indicate that the Kremlin is pinning hopes on a spring-summer offensive.
We see that they are pulling reserves, reformatting offensive groupings along the line of contact. We see concentration of armed forces. We see defense orders, increased production of missiles and ammunition. We see hidden mobilization, that is, Russia, through its administrative actions at the level of economic and military political decisions, is effectively signaling its unwillingness to stop the war.
Increasing military production, hidden mobilization, systematic internet blocking, and terrorist strikes on Ukraine, all this confirms that in the Kremlin, they are betting not on peace, but on continuing the war. Ukraine has long been ready for peace talks, while Russia systematically undermines all peace efforts, stated German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. He emphasized that the demand of the moment is to increase pressure on Moscow, and jointly from the United States and European partners. Reported by Karina Lalayan, UATV News.
For now, I must say my goodbyes to you, as it seems to be it for today and for this week. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for being with us all through these 7 days. Please leave a comment and like and maybe subscribe. It helps UATV a lot to keep you posted on all this international politics arena these days. We will be there, so to shed some light in Ukrainian perspective for you. Stay safe, tuned for more UATV. See you next time. Goodbye.